Hi, David Chapman back again. This time we're going to talk owner relations. This is the relationship between the property manager and the owner. There is three relationships that you need to know that you'll study about in this chapter. And the first one is an employer-employee relationship. This is the traditional type relationship that one would have with their employer, in which they would come to an office, work 8 to 5, and that particular employer would have say-so over how it is they do their job. Taxes would be taken out of their check and that type of thing. That's the relationship in that first category. The second one is a trust. A trust relationship we don't get into too heavily here, but basically it's a third party who deals with the obligations for the principal. The last one is the one we're going to talk about the most, and that is the principal-agent relationship. This is where an agency is actually set up. This is where we find the property management role today. Within that agency relationship, we talk about scope of authority. The scope of authority determines what the broker or what the agent can do for the principal legally. And basically you have two types there. You have general authority and you have specific, or even sometimes called special authority. General authority would be given authority over a wide range of topics, a wide range of things. Specific or special is authority given limited by time and scope. It's just something very small, very short period of time that you're able to do for somebody legally. So that is the scope of authority. With an agency relationship that we're talking about, you're going to have what we call fiduciary obligations or fiduciary duties. The first one of those that we talk about is care, the duty of care. The duty of care has to do with doing the very best job that you're capable of and doing your job for that owner or for that principal. The second one is obedience. You do what it is they say. Now this is important, and some people don't understand why it's important that we have this obedience fiduciary duty in here. But the reason is because they are responsible for your decisions, your signature, your actions. So you ought to have to be obedient to them. Now what if you are asked to do something not legal, that's not doesn't fall within your ethics, or what I would recommend at that point is it's time for you to end that relationship. So they could possibly ask you to do something that's not right to do, and I would say definitely don't do it, but you would need to end that relationship because you do have the fiduciary obligation of obedience. The third one is accounting. This is probably the one that gets most people in trouble in the business, and that's the sorting of funds. Accounting of the funds that are given to you, whether it's in security deposits or whether it's in earnest monies or any kind of a fund that you would have to set up for maintenance, and the accounting of these funds. In property management business, we have to secure these different funds in separate accounts away from our operating accounts. These are either trust accounts, escrow accounts, whatever you want to call them. They're separate accounts, and they cannot be what we call commingled with operations account. So when you use those and you put them in an operations account, that would be called mingling, and that's against the law. A second term is called conversion. That's when you would spend those funds. If you spend those funds, then it would be called conversion, and that would be illegal. So we have care, obedience, and accounting. The next one is loyalty. You have the ability, you need to do what's in the best interest of the principal. Not necessarily what's in the best interest of yourself, but in the best interest of the principal. That's called loyalty. And then the last one is called disclosure. We have the obligation to disclose the things that we know. So we can't hide things. We shouldn't hide things from the owner of what's going on in the property, and we owe them that fiduciary responsibility and obligation of disclosure. So you'll study about those even in more depth in this chapter. The next thing that chapter gets into is the management contract, identifying the parties, the contract period, the obligations and authority of the owner, and the obligations and authority of the property manager on the property. Fees and commissions are covered here. And then you'll have the signature of parties. These are the things that are contained in the management contract. Now, under identification of parties, one thing I want to caution you about is we need to verify that the people that are renting are actually who they say they are. Always ask for identification, and we have an obligation to check, particularly when it comes to illegal immigrants. to make sure that we are renting to legal citizens. So we need to verify these things, okay? Contract period. Terms will differ. Personally, my belief is that we ought to get 1-year contracts whenever possible. There is a lot of startup costs in putting together managing a property for somebody, and you will want to get a period of time. It is negotiable that you would do, and then we need to outline the terms for termination of that contract. In the responsibilities, you need to go over monthly reports and the distributions to the owner of the funds from the rent. Cover anything that you might have in the way of security bonds. A bond that would you would be able to tell the owner, I'm bonded, which means that there is an amount of money that you've put up with an insurance agency that would secure that whatever funds that you're given would be available to be used on a project. So those things are going to be handled in the management contract. How you're going to handle the funds, you're going to have the authority to rent, to operate, and to manage in that contract. How you handle expenditures, how you handle marketing costs, advertising, what control you have over any personnel that work on the property. Those types of things are very important. And then the owner's responsibility. Maybe the owner has the responsibility for payroll, insurance, purchasing, HOA dues, advertising. Those types of things will also be contained in this management contract. How you get paid. We need to consider the antitrust laws anytime that we have this conversation regarding payment, that we wouldn't collude with other property managers, that we would be very careful not to do that. So in staying with that, I want to be very careful that we don't talk about specific amounts or something that we would pay or how we would receive payment. Just suffice to say that the methods of payment are flat fee, any percentage of rental fees, all those types of things in the way of commissions or in the ways of fees are options. So we need to be talked about in those ways in that contract. If you're taking it over from another property management company, there are certain guidelines that are covered in this chapter that you need to really be careful. How you get security deposits, how you document those types of things. So that's pretty much a summary of what you're going to learn in the chapter. So go forward, and if you have any questions, be sure and contact me. Thank you very much.